You're about to see a short clip of a longer conversation where myself, Alan Grant, and Dan Bragen discuss economic concepts found in Game of Thrones. My name's Matt Rousu. I make content to try to make economics fun and easier to understand. If you like this, please click like and consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to see the full clip, we'll put a link in the description, and we will go to our full conversation along with the clip right now.
Not protecting anyone. I just wonder if it's not wiser to wait. Why risk going against the North if they would be our allies? Rise up against them and they could destroy us. But if we pledge fealty to them, they'll give us Casterly Rock.
What are our words? Our words.
We do not sow.
We do not sow. We are ironborn. We're not subjects. We're not slaves. We do not plow the fields or toil in the mine. We take what is ours. Your time with the wolves has made you weak.
Okay, so quick context on that for those who maybe watched the show in the past and aren't remembering. Theon is proposing an alliance with the Starks, and his father, Balon, is not so keen to accept that. So what are kind of the economic history lessons we can find in there? Alan or Dan want to?
Yeah, I think the first thing I think of, I believe it's a Frederick Bastiat quote, or maybe it's falsely attributed to him, but it's if goods don't cross borders, then soldiers or troops will. And I think that's fairly applicable to this situation. They're refusing to trade with other people. They're refusing to invest in some, sort of economic good, and instead they insist on imperializing the surrounding nations and stealing things from them. I think it's a pretty interesting showing of how not implementing free trade can actually lead to many military conflicts, such as the Ironborn are taking part in.
Yeah, Alan.
I was going to add, absolutely. I'm team teaching a course on World War I, and we read Bastiat, Daniel. He has, in his sophisms, he has a whole chapter on war, and makes exactly that point, is that there are two ways you can acquire wealth, and one is by creating wealth, and the other is by taking it from somebody else. And unfortunately, when everybody tries to take wealth from everybody else, the economic pie tends to shrink. Nobody wants to accumulate wealth, sort of lest it be stolen. So
yeah, I find it, what I really find fascinating about that particular clip is its relevance to thinking about how people get wealthy and how people have gotten wealthy over time. If we look at the number of millionaires today, and there's different levels for wealth, but let's say people who have a net wealth, not income, of over $5 million. The vast majority of them did not get it by taking or by government favors. Certainly there's some who still inherit money, but most of them it's by hard work, it's by trade, it's by negotiations, it's by whatever, but it's by market activities, not by pillaging. That likely could have been very different, say, 200 or 300 years ago.
absolutely. I think to add to your point, I think it's not just that these people get rich by engaging in market transactions, but they're actually creating value for other people. J.K. Rowling is rich not because she sold books. She created value for millions and millions and millions of readers, and in the process, she got rich. But we got richer too.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes to talk about the value of entrepreneurship is the percentage of value that stays with the entrepreneur is often, I've seen statistics that would say that for every dollar that an entrepreneur earns on average, society gains 20. Like the vast majority of the value add isn't to the J.K. Rowling or any particular entrepreneur, it's to the consumer surplus people had from being able to buy the Harry Potter book for whatever, $10 or $15 and getting $1,000 of joy out of it, or whatever the quantity, that was a much the total consumer surplus far exceeds any amounts that have been earned. And that's true for the vast majority of entrepreneurs.
I think there might even be a conversation here about kind of the grounds that make it fertile for entrepreneurs to come into place into being in the first place. I think it's Gregory Clark. He has a book which is like a pun on the Hemingway book, Farewell to Alms. And he kind of argues that the Industrial Revolution takes place a lot because of the cultural diffusion of these sort of bourgeois or values that are amicable to market institutions. And clearly with the Ironborn in this situation, they don't very much like markets. They'd rather raid and pillage and steal. And I think, there's sort of an institutional developmental economic sort of perspective here that some countries, for whatever reasons it may be, don't develop attitudes that are beneficial towards markets, and that may hurt them in the long run economically.
Yeah, and that's the same case that Deirdre McCloskey's in the Bourgeois trilogy books, which I think are maybe 1,000 total pages. The much shorter companion, I believe, I think it's Art Carden. Leave Me Alone and I'll Make You Rich. I think that might be the title of it. It's kind of, but a lot of it's about the same thing, right? But it's a great point that if society doesn't embrace those values, it's going to keep economic growth down.